All right, well let's get it fired up, and we'll go in five, four, three, two, one. Hey there, spiritual dope. I am on here today with Mr. Mark Youngblood. He is devoted to elevating human consciousness and promoting spiritual growth individually and collectively. He is the founder and CEO of Inner Mastery Inc. and an internationally recognized speaker and author. He's been practicing transformational coaching and teaching the Inner Mastery methodology for more than 25 years. Through his Pathway to Radiance online programs, he helps people heal their emotional wounding and clear their blocks and limitations so you can love yourself, create a life you love, and shine your inner light on the world. Mark, thanks for being here today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks, Brandon. I really am looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. I think you're the first person I've ever introduced in the style of, getting to the ring. But there you have it. I like to open these up with the whole idea that you and I are here at this exact time, space, and place in the universe so that Source can speak through us, right? And more specifically, you. To somebody out there right now, a specific message, and what is that message that's kind of streaming through you right now, Mark?
Well, the primary theme of all the work I do in the spiritual domain, and really also in the corporate work that I do, is that our calling is to really reveal our radiance. It's to recover that knowingness of who we truly are at our true self level, and to be able to live our life from that center. We call it living from the soul side. So, in your intro, you said a little bit about kind of my philosophy, but just to recap it, my approach to working with helping people to, raise their consciousness and live a much better life is that we're already souls. We don't have to become more of one. We have to become less of what we're not. And that's all the stuff that's between us and being able to be the soul. That's the layers of ego and all the wounding and the identification with being an ego and being a personality, that when we clear that out, the light just naturally shines. We don't have to try to shine it. And so that's what's up for me. It's always what's up, and both for myself and for the people I work with out in the world, is to shine more of that light, every day, clear more of that blockage out of the way, center more into that identification with who we are truly. And that's the, magnificent soul.
That's great, right? It kind of makes me think of, the house we just moved out of had this UV light to clear the water, right? Mm-hmm. And if you didn't clear the rod every once in a while of that light, then another light came out, right? So it's kind of like the same thing, right? You're basically helping us clear the light there in that rod. One of the things that I noticed about just kind of working with you and just my own introspection of your choice of the word radiant, right? I think that was a really great choice of words in the term and what we do here. How did you land on the word radiant?
Actually, I had a friend who was teasing me about it and going, "What are we, radioactive?" No, not quite. Well,
there's always some jerk out there, Mark.
He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. He was yanking my chain on it. But, every image you've ever seen of awakened people when they've been depicted, they're glowing. They just are shining. And, in my own inner eye, when I look at people at the soul level, they're just blazing with light, and to me it is radiance. It's just it's an effortless shining of our inner magnificence, and it's who we all are, and that's such a liberating idea. It's so funny. I don't know what sort of religious background you have, Brandon. Maybe you can tell us about it in a second.
Yeah, I'm 100% open. I think that you had asked yesterday or today about kind of who was questioned about asking about a woman who had been impactful in kind of our journey, right? And I told you my mom, because I literally, this is all the stuff that kind of we're having a conversation about. I was taught at a very young age, but I wasn't able to process it the same way, right? But now it's like kind of, it's almost like this was always my first language, but I was never able to speak it.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Well, I was raised in a Methodist, which is kind of a moderate Christian religion. And, we were taught that, we have a soul and the devil can get it, like it's some sort of little crystal or gem or something, and you've got to protect it with everything, like it's going to, be taken away from us. And, I think it's completely opposite. Instead of being a person who has a soul, we're a soul who has a personality. And, it's invented, who we think we are. We created it from the moment we began to have a sense that there's a self here. We invented a story. And a lot of that story is really limiting. Now, almost anybody who's functional in the world has a part of their story that actually reflects some of their soul qualities. But there's so much embellishment and a lot of garbage in that teasing the two apart and really knowing what aspects that I'm bringing to the world are truly coming from that soul perspective and what is just as made up, and I'm coming from this invented facade that is performing, it's out trying to convince the world of who it is. And to separate those two things. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that egos are bad. I'm saying that you don't want to identify with it and you want to clear it out. You want to clear out all the limiting beliefs and all the wounding it's holding on to that are, as you were describing earlier, that junk that's blocking the UV light or blocking the soul light. And you need tools for that. You need ways to go about doing it that are proven and that work. And once you do, then it's like eating a chocolate elephant. And I don't know if you've heard that expression before, where, the idea of the chocolate elephant's the big change you want to make. And so with this, it's about just taking a bite, every day or a few times a week and just eat. And it adds up. It adds up over time,
100%. I have never heard it referred to as the chocolate elephant, but I will. It is now forever in there. I am going to jump back real quick though I'm going to jump all the way back to radiance, and then we'll walk forward again a little bit from there. But you're talking about that light that naturally shines, and I love that you also just kind of talk about it with being effortless. Yeah. Right? The other idea too is that radial point is center, and it's spherical, and it comes from all spaces, right? And it's not just flat and 2D. It's amorphous, and so that's the vision, and that's when I thought about the choice of word radiance that you chose, I said, well, that's perfect, because just like you're saying, that is the light that naturally shines doesn't shine, never shines in 2D. It's wherever there is space for it to shine. Right.
I like that. I had never heard that. I love it. It certainly fits.
Yeah, I mean, so that was my thought on where it came from for you, but so there we go, right? But and we kind of joined it up in the middle there. Never really thought about that too, like the soul getting taken away. I always thought about like maybe the soul getting murky or something like that, and so it's kind of like the idea of the devil trying to come up and take it, and you've got to try and protect your soul from getting stolen, right?
It's such a strange thing to think of it that way, right? But it's the common thing, almost any movie that has references to souls, it's like that. It's like what's the guy's name that was the blues singer, Robert Johnson? Is that his name? That went down to the crossroads and he sold his soul to the devil to be a great guitar player. Like he could barter it away.
I remember. I mean, I think I know the song, right? Like, I remember the song, right? Like it's kind of similar to that. Like Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Exactly. Similar background, right? Yeah. So Devil Went Down to Georgia. Anyways, yeah. Well, what I want to know too is a little bit about the journey of Mark Youngblood and just kind of how you came into this space for yourself. If you could shine a little light on that, if you could.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. And one of the great things about telling stories like this, Brandon, I really want to acknowledge you for your work and for what you do with this podcast. Is that by hearing the stories, they're the every man and every woman story, right? This is nothing special. It's not for some select few. It's for every one of us, and that's one of the things that gets to come out of this. And I have a model for the evolution of consciousness, and I call it the pathway to radiance. And there's stages, and in my own life, a lot of the development of the model was based on noticing for myself what happened at various kind of plateaus in this journey, I had an awakening moment, and it was when I hit rock bottom. And in my model, the first stage of everyone's life is the wounding stage. This is when we're born, and this is when we're growing into a personality, and we're taught all these limitations, and we have things done to us that leaves emotional scars and energetic scars, for that matter, and then we come into adulthood with the baggage, all of this baggage, and that's what makes us unconscious to who we are. And, I've always been really curious about what leads someone to wake up. What causes that to happen? And in my own life, I had to hit rock bottom, and that's where most people crack open. They either have the opportunity at that moment to awaken to a higher expression of themselves, or cling to the behaviors that put them at rock bottom, Yeah,
and do me a favor too. How would you define waking up? What specifically do you feel like you're waking up to?
There's more to me than this body and this personality. That was my first awakening, because the actual event was I was highly ego identified, highly. And I was also deeply wounded and insecure, and I needed to prove myself to the world. And so I started this business. And I was telling everybody I was going to make millions, I was going to be famous, I was going to be wealthy. And I pulled it off. I was able to actually build the product that I was trying to create, but I couldn't sell it because I didn't know anything about selling. And I put all of my money into it. I was down to about 2 weeks worth of money. I was going to not be able to pay my mortgage the next month. And I had been trying to avoid admitting I was going to fail, because I couldn't admit that, everything would fall apart, and it did. And I remember I was in a panic. I still hadn't admitted it, and I couldn't eat. I almost, couldn't breathe. And I was sitting at breakfast, and I'd made some instant oatmeal, and I took a bite, and it was like sawdust. I could not even swallow it because I was so panicked. And I didn't know anything about meditation, but I knew if I closed my eyes and I changed the color from red, from white hot to red to a cooler color to blue to deep blue to black, that it calmed me. And I did that. And when I got to black, there's something in me that said, I give up. I quit. I surrender. I can't do it. And in that moment, everything within me lit up like the most brilliant white light that you could ever imagine, but just blindingly lit up until all I could see was white in my mind's eye. And I was flooded with feelings of well-being and of love and of comfort and peace. Well, my eyes popped open, and I felt like I had never seen the world before. I walked outside, and birds, it was like I'd never heard birds sound so beautiful. I'd never smelled air so pure. I'd never seen a sky so blue. Everything was just lit up for me. I went inside. I was voraciously hungry. I ate 3 bowls of oatmeal. I called my parents and said, the company's it's failing. I got to get a job. And that's what woke me up. It was hitting bottom. And what I woke up to was this tremendous hunger to find out what that something more was, because some part of my soul was able to break through, and I wanted more. And so I just started this incredible journey of reading everything I could get my hands on, starting to do kind of out there transformational things like holotropic breath work. And
well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to jump in here real quick. I mean, because I mean, right there, right? I mean, it's funny to me, right? You're seeing a lot of breath work popping up now in the social media space, but it's always been going on. It's just a new awareness to maybe this generation, right? Or this space. But at the time that you were doing it, my guess is like, when did you start doing that breath work?
I think that would have been in about 1985 or so.
Yeah, you were getting some looks. You were getting some looks. You got the yuppies that are, the yuppies are coming into their own right about then, right? They're like, well, Mark, we told you we don't do that no more.
Yeah.
Right. And so you got those guys coming in at it. But I want to touch on a couple of things that you're talking about before we move it any forward, because you're talking about your ego identity. And personally, I always get caught up in exactly what ego is. But you're sitting there, you're in a space, you're being overwhelmed, you're feeling like this massive constriction, you've lost like all flavor and sensation, like life sensation. You're like, I can't, no more. And then the moment of surrender is that kind of that moment of release.
Yeah.
And the giving up, like I give up, doesn't have to signify I give up on life. It's like I give up on, I'm going to say, pardon my French on my own podcast, where is I give up on all this shit and I let it go.
Yeah.
Right. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you did that,
yeah,
you opened yourself up.
Right. And here's the thing about it. I didn't know I was going to do it. It was spontaneous. And it doesn't work to just go, okay, I give up.
We talked about this in your group the other day, right? And we talk about the idea that if this is something that you're looking, in relation, my similar state of that space of this I jotted down here, right? Tuned into a whole new channel, right? You're like, you went outside, you walked into the Disney Channel now. It's all lit up, it's vibrant. There's sense, there's smell. It's like, where's this wonderful place been my entire life, right? And it's like back then, right? Like, and I was already thinking about this earlier. It's like we had those rabbit ears back then, right? We had to tune in, even like the UHF. If you really wanted to get like Fox back in the day, you had to like go to channel 47, and channel 47, you had to direct it, put a little bit of aluminum on top there to really get to that channel. But you tuned into a whole new sense of space.
Yeah.
That had always been available to you.
Yeah.
Right. But it wasn't until you let go of who you thought you had to be successful, or again, just letting go of it all.
It was, probably letting go might not be a word that represents what it was more like I collapsed. It was more like, you think about the ceilings coming down. I'm getting crushed under the weight. I've been trying to hold it up. And what I was holding up was the false image of who I was,
right?
And trying to defend it against the world, and the weight got too much, and I quit trying to hold it up, and it's just like, and to me it was an ego death. There's definitely a part of me died in that moment.
And this, I just want to get back to the point though too, where like you it's really hard to time this moment. Right? Nobody times overall collapse, right? A life collapse. You know what? Like, I think Tuesday at 4:45, I'm gonna give up and fall in a heap to the ground with all this. And
it's on the calendar. It's gonna happen, right?
If I'm lucky, I'm gonna have a spiritual breakthrough at the same time, right? So don't bother calling me at 4:45 on Tuesday. I'm busy, right? So that it doesn't happen like that. And I think that was one of the things that you were saying too. It's not like you can.
Yeah. Right. And lots of other people wake up in different ways, but I think many, many, many people wake up when they reach their own personal collapse. That could be, if you're identified with your job, getting fired. It could be a scandal. It could be the collapse of your marriage, death of someone close to you, a threat to your own life. Lots of things, and kind of in the painful way of waking up, can do that. But it can also happen spontaneously, just out of grace. That's what I was saying a while ago. To me, it's a little bit of a mystery how it happens, and I don't think I could have rushed it. I don't think I could have done it, in any other way. Now, I will say this: the people who are listening, if you haven't had that moment, I do believe that you can gently evolve your way forward using tools like, I'm going to say, my inner mastery methodology, which is a kind of a toolkit for emotional healing, being able to change how you think, clear your energy, that sort of thing. But there are other tools out there. If you devote yourself to doing that healing proactively without waiting for things to get bad, you're going to be raising your vibration, and you'll reach a threshold, because there's not just one threshold. Maybe we ought to talk about this, Brandon, is the plateaus. You reach a threshold and you plateau, then you climb again, and you reach the next threshold, you break through to another kind of awakening, to that next level of consciousness. And then, you're there for a bit, and then you climb, and you break through to the next one. And you can get there, you can break through without the world having to go to pieces if you do your work, because this, as your vibration increases, you got to think about it kind of like turning the stove, the heat on the stove, up under a pot. And it reaches a boiling point, and at that point everything in the water comes out, right? Because it's boiling it out to the surface.
Right.
Well, when you reach these thresholds, it's a quantum leap. You're here in your vibrational frequency, and boom, you pop up to another frequency. But you still have frequencies in you that don't fit this new frequency. They're appropriate for that level you were before. Right. And they're going to boil out. They're going to start coming to the surface to be cleared. And that's what we call it, a dark night. It's because this stuff kind of disrupts your world for a while.
I would have to say that, and I shared this again in the group, that I think that my first kind of stumbling into enlightenment, as it were, right? I don't hesitate to call it enlightenment. I stumbled into just a different channel, right? A different way of being, real similar to your moment, right? And I couldn't have timed it. But to your point, and maybe you reminded me of the book Neurodharma by Rick Hansen too, right? He echoes your sentiment, where you can cultivate this space, right? You can begin to do the work now, and that'll make the landing, or the space, a little bit more prepared, right? Like yours was under the heap of ego identification. Yeah. Mine was like, what just happened, right? Like, it was like, where am I, and what just happened? But if you kind of just do the steady eating the chocolate elephant, right? Yes. Eating the chocolate elephant, and with the idea of just cultivating the space for yourself, right? And I always I use this line at work all the time that you gave me, in terms of even coaching, right, or working with a teacher, is that I was like, hey Mark, I'll reach out to you if I hit a wall or something. You're like, well, wouldn't it be a better idea to, like, I don't know, kind of not hit the wall, and like maybe just get some guidance, and just be like, hey Brandon, there's a wall up there, don't hit it. I was like, touche. Because, and again, we are so I think as Americans, I would say, hardwired to I get it from my own children. They're still young. I can do this myself,
right?
Because we've asked them to do some things on their own. Like, we want you to be self-sufficient, but we don't want you to get hurt. Right. And so we, it's very difficult for us to ask for that help, or go to somebody to get that guidance, right? Because we've been taught that we're supposed to kind of do this on our own. How would you, I imagine you would do it just like you told me, like, well, maybe you don't want to hit that wall, but like to somebody who's not engaged in this space yet and wants to get there.
Yeah. I happen to think, based on years of doing this work, and I did lots and lots of self-development work by going to programs like neuro-linguistic programming, but then getting into shamanism and doing some really intensive work in shamanism and just different things like that. And over decades, I collected what works, at least what works for me, and kind of put it together. You can think of it like, a cool toolkit or a medical kit. And you use the tool that's appropriate for what needs to be changed in any moment. But I believe there's 4 dimensions here that are vital to the journey, and you can't leave any of them behind or you'll regret it. One of them is soul connection, is that it's absolutely essential that you learn how to engage the soul in your journey so that it will support you in that journey and in a real sense, do some of the clearing away of stuff for you, but will be your companion and you can get guidance from your soul. So that's part 1. Part 2 is you have to be able to manage your thoughts, because we're the co-creators of our reality, and our thoughts are going to play a huge role in what's going to manifest for us. So being able to change your thoughts, to learn how to not let the autopilot run things, but to stay in the driver's seat is crucial. Third is emotional mastery. And this is not only do you not want to act out in the world in a way that damages relationships and that sort of thing, or suppress the emotions as a way to not act them out. You want to get in there and get rid of all the emotions that have been piling up since almost birth, because many of them are still there. And that leads to, not only are they low vibration, and they're some of the biggest boulders you need to move out, but they lead to inflammation in the body, and that leads to all the chronic diseases. And we've got an epidemic of chronic disease right now. And then the final is we're energy beings, right? And as energy beings, we need to manage our energy body just like we do our physical body. And you have to have hygiene, because we pick up each other's energy. And are you able to keep that heavy energy off of you? It's like if you were to climb around the attic with a white outfit on, what's it going to look like? And that's what our world is like. And if you pick up everyone else's heavy energy, it's going to bring your vibration down. But also we have vibrating frequencies that are patterns in our energy body that are like magnets. And you can think of them as karma. They're the unresolved patterns that are looking to be completed. They're looking for the end. Like there's this little musical ditty that goes da 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 da. Okay, it has an end to it. But if you went da 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 and stopped right there, there's just this waiting and waiting and waiting for for it to finish. That's the way these patterns are. And so they'll stay there and keep attracting into your world everything you're experiencing until you clear that pattern out and put patterns in place to manifest what you do want. So those are the 4 dimensions. It's soul connection, mental mastery, emotional mastery, and energy mastery. And I think you need tools in all those dimensions, whether you get them from me, you get them from any number of sources, is that you need to have those, and you need to be able to do your own work to progress. So I don't know if that was a tangent or if that answered your question.
Well, I don't know. I think that, for sake of anything marketing wise, 4 dimensions that are vital, that's a headline right there. We're totally using that. As you led into that, I was like, well, we need to know what this is, right? So very good there for sure. One of the questions, I don't know that I've ever noticed overly much in the groups or in the workings that we've done together. As a law of attraction kind of guy, are you a law of attraction kind of guy, or are you just kind of like, this is just how it works, I don't call it law of attraction?
Well, I mean, you can call it law of attraction, and because it is the way it works. Mm-hmm. And I don't emphasize spending a lot of energy trying to get the world to dance to your tune. Mm-hmm. I don't spend a lot of energy on that. I did early in my journey, because it was kind of, that shiny object.
It's exciting, right? I know.
It was exciting. And it's an appropriate part of most people's journey. Okay. Is to learn, hey, I can manifest stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's totally cool. And it is cool. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's like a baby discovering that it can talk, but I mean, it's our nature to talk.
Mhm.
And it's our nature to manifest. And
That's right.
you're already manifesting everything in your world.
Right.
It's just, it's not directed. It's not intentional.
Right.
And it's disrupted by, a lot of the garbage that's in the way of being able to bring in, what would be a great life. But I would say my focus is on get clear about your life path, get clear about your life purpose. Learn to tune in to guidance that shows you your path forward, and it's going to open up for you. But part of getting there is your thoughts have to line up with that path.
Right.
And when you do, it's not to say that you won't have challenges. I promise you'll have challenges, but it'll feel right. It feels like this is just the journey. But I bet you, Brandon, that you have had times when you weren't on your path, that you had difficulties and you knew something was wrong with the fact that you had those difficulties.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, looking back and even looking ahead and right now, especially, right, as we become more aware of this feeling, of this sensation of, hey, I'm working towards this thing and I'm putting way too much effort into it. Does that, why am I putting this much effort into it? And is it in alignment with my purpose and path, right? And then when you kind of take a look at it in that way, you're able to realize, because it's not in alignment with anything that I truly believe in life. I think that's kind of what you're getting at, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's right. There's a different feel to challenges when you're on your path than when you're off your path and you're off your path.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, again, spiritual dope is on my path.
Yeah,
right.
I can feel it. I can feel it in you. Yeah, absolutely.
And it varies differently compared to the other two projects that I'd spun up that were real similar, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a massive effort, massive doing, massive right? And the second one was less, and this one is even less, more so, right? And there's still moments, to your point, where I'll be doing things. I'm like, is this necessary? Yeah. All this doing what I'm doing, and who or what is this? And even recognizing who or what is this for? Is this for my ego? Right? Is this it's just for me just to say, hey, I just did this thing and whatever. But I think one thing that I think I lost track of here in our conversation, this has all been really, great conversation. So I want to go back to you being suffocated underneath of your crashing moment, and how do we move forward from that moment to integrate that awakening into the rest of your life and fulfilling life.
Yeah. So is the question you're asking that if someone right now is in that point and they're at their breaking point, what do they do?
Yeah. How do you move forward from there? And how do you,
I think the next step? The thing I didn't mention a while ago, and it's crucial. There are really two pieces to a successful spiritual evolution. One of them is you have to have the tools to be able to do your work. But number two is you need a community. And I would say to everyone out there that the number one thing to do, even before you get tools, the number one thing is get with a spiritual community, because that community is a space, it's an energy that when you tap into it, it's going to lift you up. And this world, if you have to navigate it by yourself, there's so much about it that is designed to cause you to go down. And we call it the elevator, kind of go down the elevator to lower consciousness. And your community brings you back up. Your community lifts you up and starts helping you see a vision for yourself that you never even saw for yourself before. And that's part of, what I offer as well. I have a free community on Facebook, and I call it Radiant Soul Community. And then one that you join, and it's private, and it's got a ton of content in it called Soulside Community. But so you marry content with community, and you've got a wonderful combination. And so, I guess that's my best advice is go get in a community and then start finding what are the tools and practices that I resonate with most, that I will adopt and start using for myself. Because, this is not about having anybody else fix you. This is not about having anyone else take responsibility for your journey. this is a fundamental thing, that your journey is your job. and a lot of people don't want it. They want someone to come do it for them, and you'll be waiting a long time. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to be able to be the one responsible.
Yeah, and that's important, right? And I do love the communities. I definitely want to hit on the communities that you've created. I would also, I would also say too, like if you find a community and it doesn't, and it's a spiritual community and it doesn't feel like a fit, leave, go find another one that feels like it's a fit, because there are plenty of them out there,
yes.
right? If you're kind of in this space and you're like, oh, I found a community, but I don't feel like I'm in the right place, then you might not be, and that's okay.
That's right. You might not be. That's right.
One of the things that comes up a lot, Mark, and I'd be curious as just kind of what your take is on it, is that you see people who are often going through this process and they feel like their relationship is hindering them from growing. And it's funny because I initially struggled with this, but I came pretty quick to terms too in my own relationship, and everybody's relationship is a little bit different, but it was like, well, we're not growing at the same rate and pace, right? You see that a lot. How do you address that to somebody that asks you?
Oh my gosh, I have spent so much time thinking about that. There's a point at which the gap becomes so great that you're operating from completely different worlds. And there's almost no meeting in terms of making meaning of things. There's no meeting in the mind, that the meaning is fundamentally different. If the two people stay close enough that they can synchronize their interpretation of things in the world and then the path forward, so that you as the spiritual aspirant are able to continue to follow your guidance, you're able to continue to walk your path, then that's a relationship that can continue to work. In my own personal opinion, speaking solely for myself, I believe that our number one job, our number one purpose for being here is our spiritual journey. And if a relationship is holding you back, then it's finished its job. It no longer serves you. It's time to move on, because there will be another one waiting for you that is a partner that meets you where you are and is ready to walk the path with you. And I had that happen to me. I divorced about 10 years ago, and it wasn't a match. That's all I'm going to say. It wasn't a match in terms of how we saw the world. And it was a big barrier for me to be able to move forward. And guidance, I had several times where Spirit said, your work together is done. It was beautiful. It served its purpose. It catapulted you on your journey. Congratulations, move on. And I fought it and fought it and fought it until it ended up being a painful break. And right at that moment, a new woman came into my life who happened to be my high school sweetheart, who had evolved tremendously in the 35 years since I'd seen her. And our journeys are perfect. Right where her consciousness is, mine met hers, and we have been walking with spirituality at the center of our relationship ever since. And my consciousness has skyrocketed since that shift. So I'm only speaking for me. And there's a lot of people with lots of family that are affected. And it has to be a personal choice. It has to be something, that you get clear guidance on what's the right thing for you. And I always believe that the number one thing to do is, if you get your own inner guidance, that's your truth, and follow it, no matter how painful it might be. Is that helpful?
It is helpful. It is helpful, right? Everybody's journey is certainly their own. And, I guess one question that comes out of that for me is, why did you fight it to begin with, right? Let's talk a little bit about that fight.
I think I mentioned earlier that we go through these plateaus and we have these breakthroughs, okay? And this was a breakthrough for me, because I had tried to leave that marriage when my son was 3 years old. And I realized, because we continued to go to counseling and we were just separated, I hadn't done my work. that I was at least as big a part of the cause of what was going on as her contribution. And what's the point of going somewhere else to ruin that relationship when I could stay in this one? So I came back. And from that point on, we were married 21 years, so I was there a long time. And leaving meant going through that again. Leaving meant leaving my son, who was a junior in high school. It meant going through the pain of a separation, which is no picnic, and it wasn't. It was extremely difficult, and so I kept rationalizing it away because doing it would have been too painful. The Spirit told me 3 distinctly clear times, move on. It's time to go. Until there was a breaking point. Something happened and that was it. That was it. I couldn't stay anymore. And it was certainly the right thing. But that's what I would say, is that I was clinging to a smallness. I was clinging to a smallness.
Clinging to a smallness. And, as you were talking, just jotted down pain and fear, right? Who wants to go through all that? I mean, you've invested a lot of time, right? And energy.
Exactly.
Right. And,
exactly.
And to leave that. So,
all the friends, you got to remember, you've built up 21 years of friendships and all that.
Yeah.
And, you have to, everyone has to ask themselves, at the end of my life, what will have mattered? That I played small and I didn't upset people around me, or that I followed my truth and I broke through and I had this massive shift in my consciousness.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's something I think about all the time. There'll be a point when we check out when not one thing on this planet is going to matter.
Right.
The only thing that's going to matter is the evolution that you achieved.
Right.
The spiritual evolution.
No, that's great. No, thanks for sharing. I mean, I think that's really helpful for people that who feel like they are kind of hindered by their things, or who feel like they want to try and make it forward, and they're suffering through a lot of the same stuff that you suffered, right? Like the pain and the fear, and is something better on the other side of that, and for you something was, right? And
well, here's what I would say to that, if you don't mind me stepping in here.
Not at all.
Is that when you say yes to your journey, providence moves. That Spirit will come to you. And Spirit will bring people. It will bring the resources you need. It will bring the opportunities. It will support you in moving forward on your path.
Well, so it's like that trust game, right? Where you fall backwards, and I'm a big fan of Alan Watts, right? Where he's got that one where it just says, trust the universe is another, right? And the universe should be your friend. Let's talk a little bit about then, and thanks for sharing, kind of the journey into that space and kind of how to navigate going forward. Let's talk a little bit about some of the programs that you've created. Yeah. I know you've got a couple books out there as well. Yeah. What is the program you've got coming up here soon, Mark?
Well, I would say the first thing people would want to explore would be the SoulSide community that is available for people to join. And you're a member of that, Brandon. You know how magnificent this experience is, and how much evolution can come from it, and how much good can come from it. And when you join, you don't just get to come into the community and have all those people surrounding you and being supported and being able to show up. I want to say more about that in a moment. But you're also going to come in and you're going to get some initial training for free. This initial training is the soul connection and divine guidance training. So, because job one, remember, is to learn how to connect with your soul. So the very first thing you're going to get when you come in is how to do that. And I think there's 7 or 8 lessons in that are really powerful lessons to, in just a matter of a few weeks, achieve that goal for you, is to be able to have that connection and to get that guidance. And in the community itself, I provide content every week. You get some new information that will help you to learn and to grow, provide new tools, new tips. We have group calls, Zoom calls, that we get together and talk about a topic, and everybody gets to share their point of view. And if you have questions about life, about your own situation, about any of the training that you're going through, then you can bring them up there and they're going to get answered. But one of the things you asked earlier, and you're making the comment that people don't ask for help because of this whole, the strong, you got to be strong and do it yourself. But there's another reason. And the other reason is the lack of safety. And that's one of the things our community provides. It is such a safe place. It's utterly private. No one can see what's happening in there. Everyone's committed to everyone else. No one gets invalidated. Nobody gets shamed. That you can say anything you need to say. And then people are bearing their souls about crises that they're having and can, help me have the strength to move through it. We don't fix it for anybody. What we do is support you in having the strength and knowing how to do it for yourself. And that's one of the great beauties of this, is most people never had a relationship so honest, so open and so willing to be seen and for others to be gentle when you are trying to be seen. And it's about kind of the messiness in your life, right?
Absolutely. Real Humpty Dumpty stuff, right? Like, I mean, you fall down and all the king's men couldn't put them back together again. But like, it is, I love the idea of not fixing it for you, right? Helping others to fix it themselves with the support of the community.
Yes.
Right. And not only, with the support of the community, but with some new tools, and not just with new tools, but hey, here's how to apply these tools.
Yes.
Which you offer, and you do a really wonderful job at. And one of the things that I love about what you put out there and the support that you offer and the community offers is patience.
Right.
Right. And it takes patience, because sometimes people like myself, for example, you don't always get it right the first time. I know it sounds crazy, but and so you work with it through to a solution for people. And another thing that you offer often that I see you post is ask for prayers for people, right?
Yes.
I love that you do that, right? So I think that's something that's kind of underestimated, the power of prayer, or good vibes, or whatever you need to call it, right? Hey, let's all send concentrated thought of good thought and healing towards this one space. And so I enjoy that you do that. I don't think I've ever shared that with you before. So I think that's a real powerful tool that you're helping others to see for themselves.
Yeah.
One of the other tools that you've given a couple of free transformational coaches sessions to me personally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I found them to be. I was just thinking about it earlier. It's the work that you do is so surgical. Right. But when you think about it,
word for
it really is, though. It's surgical, like not like I'm a barber from the 1800s surgical, but like laser surgery, and where it doesn't feel like I'm being beaten and battered through our conversation. There's a true, it's non-invasive, and I come out of it and I'm like, there's like this this amazing feeling. So I think that that's awesome, and you share those with people through the group as well. I wanted to, why don't you just really quick, let's walk through doing I love the kind of the clearing the energy thing. Walk us through, where we kind of do the cyclone process, right?
Yeah. So this would be a great thing. It's a tool everyone can begin using right away. And it's the idea that our energy body, it interacts at an energetic level with everything and everyone. And we pick up other people's energy. We also kind of off-gas our own negative energy. And if you ever saw the movie Peanuts and the little boy that walked along and dust just fell off of him, that's what our energy bodies look like. They're really generally dirty. But there's a very simple technique that I'll give you two versions of it that you can use to clean this out and wash it out. And one of them is just imagining a white waterfall. You're standing on a waterfall of white sparkling light that's washing down through every part of your energy field, all the way out to the edges of your aura, through every cell of your body, washing any loose or negative energy, not negative in a kind of evil way, but negative in a heavy vibration way. So it's washing this energy out. And just visualize that, and you can almost imagine water, this clean water coming in, and then it gets dirty as it flushes this out. And you'll start to have sensations. You'll feel lighter, cooler, often. So that's the white waterfall. In a more powerful version, but different people respond to different forms of this, is to imagine like a whirlwind, like a tornado, that is a brilliant white light starting 30 feet above your head, coming down to the center of your body and out larger than your whole energy field, sweeping out that heavy energy, sweeping out the cells of your body, and then carrying that down 30 feet in the earth, and it deposits it there because there's beings that will consume that energy, because it's just heavy energy. It's nothing bad or toxic about it. It's just heavy, and you want it out of your field.
No, thanks for sharing that. And I always find that to be, I always find that process to be super helpful, right? It's just, it helps me feel lighter, brighter, like I've just been Clorox or something.
Right? Well, and you want to do it many times a day. Mm-hmm. Anytime you've gone out and you've been around people, before you go to bed, it'll help you sleep. When you first get up, you a lot of people, when they're taking a shower, it's a good reminder. I'm in the shower. Let me just do a white waterfall while I'm in the shower. And I call it energy hygiene, and you keep your energy clean just like you do your body. Something else. It's one of many tools that are important. Like
something else you hit on during that I know that I've been personally struggling with is that when you think about the idea of you talked about kind of washing this energy away or getting the cyclone to deposit this other energy and using the word negative simply because we don't have a better term for it, but what you're saying and I'm hearing, and it's great for me because I've always been like, well, I just want to be like all positive energy, so I'm going to breathe in positive and I'm going to breathe out positive, and I'm not trying to bring any detriment to anybody anywhere. Namaste. It's the idea of that energy that may not be benefiting me may be benefiting something somewhere else. And I like it. So thank you.
Yeah,
that's very helpful.
Yeah,
like I'm like,
exactly right. It's just frequencies, right? It's just maybe instead of calling it negative, I should call it heavy, because it's heavy. This heavy energy that you want out.
Yeah. No, and that's helpful, right? Just the idea of that which isn't serving me may serve something or someone else, and in a positive, beneficial manner. Right.
By the way, one final thought on this, if I may, is every time you do any sort of healing work, energy work, meditation, yoga, you want to do one of those waterfalls or whirlwinds, because you're breaking up at least little bits of energy. And if you don't flush them out, they'll congeal onto the structures of your energy body, and it's still heavy. You got in there. So just clean it out and let it go. And that's how your vibration pops up and up and up and up. Right. And you can imagine, doing that in the eating the chocolate elephant form of doing healing techniques, flushing that out, how it just gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And all of a sudden you start to be intuitive. All of a sudden you start to understand things. All of a sudden you have greater emotional control because more of your light is shining out and you're not having to try as hard anymore to be a more magnificent, radiant person. That's how it works.
No, it's great. And thanks again, Mark. I mean, I want to hit on one more thing. Is your book, the Emotional Mastery book, was it the Emotional Mastery, the book that you shared with me? I just wanted to mention that book real quick to people as a tool that Mark has created. It's really, really well done. And I think that's another space that men in America, especially, shy away from, right, is dealing with their emotions.
Yeah.
So let's just, maybe a 5-minute segment on how to start that work as a guy, right? Emotional mastery.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's interesting that you bring that up. I've got two communities, and the ratio of women to men is about 75 to 80% women, and their balance is men. And we need it 50-50. Yeah, we need a lot more men to get on board with it. But the book is called Dear Human, Master Your Emotions. Dear Human, Master Your Emotions. And I have a bunch of tools in there. It's a really great book. And you know this, Brandon, but I don't think this audience has heard it yet. In the other part of my world, I'm an executive coach. I work with CEOs at corporations and their teams, their senior team, on how to be exceptional leaders. It's year-long program, one-on-one work, very intensive, and it's all about consciousness. And these people, Brandon, to your point, they'll do an assessment, and the assessment comes in and goes, your emotions are shut down. And so a big part of the work is to get them to, reclaim their emotions, to reclaim their body, and also to not let those emotions run them. And to be, we call it the pilot or autopilot. Who's in charge here? Is your reactivity, your autopilot, subconscious reactions running things, or is your pilot staying in charge? And how are you going about that? So we teach tools for that. We teach tools for this inner self mastery, and that's one thing that men can relate to. If you give them an analytical process. that they can see.
We're simple. We're simple creatures. We like pictures and things you can see. Just draw me a map and I'll follow it.
So that's what I do. I teach these tools. I have a tool called Drain the Pain. That when you're triggered, it's a quick visualization to release the emotional energy. And in fact, anyone who joins my email list gets that immediately. Give that away. It's one of those must-have tools. And so it's a way to, when you lose the charge, your head clears up and you're able to make better choices. But then there's also, how do you let go of insecurities? How do you clear those out? How do you clear out old resentments? What are the practices for that? So one of the things I have found as a motivator for men, I believe that was your question, is how do we get men moving? What do you care about? Do you care about having a better marriage? Do you care about a better career? Do you care about being a better leader? What's the goal that would make doing this work worth it for you? Because that's what I do with my executive coaches my executive clients when I'm coaching them. What do you want to have happen? Well, I want to be able to be a CEO one of these days. I want to be able to lead this company and really have it grow. I want to have a huge impact on the lives of the people that work for me. Awesome. Here's what you have to do to get there. So you can think of it like a Trojan horse. The Trojan horse is the goal they want. It's the big shiny thing. And inside is the thing that delivers it. Okay. And that's transformation. That's the raising of your consciousness, learning how to master your emotions and elevating how you see and interpret the world.
That's powerful, right? So, essentially, what I'm hearing you say is, give them something to make the transformation worth it, right? Be like, yes. Help them to identify, all right, well, hey, this massive goal for you in your life that you would like to get to. Well, guess what? The one thing that's keeping you out of from that space is everything that you've ignored for the past 30 years.
Yes.
Right? You've done really well with you got good grades, you did the right things, and right. You climbed the right ladders. But right here, right now, where you're at, you've got to address the shit that you haven't addressed right. your entire life, and it's important too, right? And I think one of the things that I always hit on when I talk with some of my clients or even just conversations is that, again, especially as men, and I'm sure there's plenty of women out there too, like we've been told to we feel like we were yes. taught to shut down yes. our emotions,
we
right?
were.
And
yes.
and so we don't even have the tools
yeah
to identify them, and that doubles the frustration too, right? Be like, yeah. Wow, what am I feeling? Yeah. And you're like, I don't know what it is. Is it anger, frustration? It's all the things, and you're just gonna lash out because you have no way. If you don't know what it is, how can you address it?
That's exactly right. I was raised in a spare the rod, spoil the child household, and my father was pretty extreme in his punishment. And then, after he'd beaten us, he would say, stop crying, or I'm going to give you another reason to cry. Mm. And so we just weren't allowed to cry. I'm sure you've heard that story from other men.
Yeah.
And of course, our peers shame us if we show any sort of weakness, and
Right.
nothing worse than to be a boy and called sissy. So, sadly, now I think it's changing. Would
Right.
you say it's changing?
Yeah, I would say it's changing. It doesn't, we're definitely at the changing of the guard, right?
Yeah.
We've got the boomers that kind of still are holding on to that, as we've
Yeah.
got and I hesitate to call it like an evolved society or anything like that, because again, I think that each generation serves its purpose
Yeah.
to move us forward, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to your point, though, I believe that I see it changing. Could it also be that I'm so saturated in this space that that's all I'm tuned to? I don't know. I'm okay with either one of those two, though. To be
Well,
honest with you, right?
yeah.
Um, so in order to address some of this emotional mastery, do check out first of all the book that Mark has mentioned. I think that's very helpful and beneficial. And then if you're looking to join the community, where should we send people, Mark, to go ahead and join the communities?
Yeah. So there's a free community that I'm in periodically. Because I'm spending so much time in Soulside community. It's called the Radiant Soul Community on Facebook, and you can just search for it, and it's free, and you can join. That's a public community, so it's lovely, but it isn't the place you go to actually tell the truth and do your work, because it's public. But to join the Soulside community, here's a link, and I'm going to read it to you. It's go, like the word go, dot pathwaytoradiance.com/soulside. So it's go.pathwaytoradiance.com//soulside. And you'll go to a page that describes what all you get in the community. And you'll see some videos where I talk to you about it. And it's got you get the money back guarantee. There, and it's a 30 days free, so you get to trial for 30 days, and once you join, you can quit at any time, and so what's the what's the risk,
Right.
and you get to keep the training.
Nice. I love it. Who do you think is an ideal fit for this program?
I think the ideal fit are the people who are starting their journey, and the people, so beginner to intermediate. I do have training for advanced. It won't be there probably for another year. But for right now, if you're beginner to intermediate and you're wanting support to really accelerate the transformation of your life, to raise your vibrational frequency, to evolve your consciousness, and in doing that, transform your world for the better. If you're hungry for that, then this is the place. We're going to support you in that. We're going to give you the tools to be able to heal and to let go of the stuff that's blocking your soul light from shining, and you'll see dramatic changes in even a year. You'll see dramatic changes in a year.
So I'm gonna just jump in here too and share that I believe that one of the things that I really enjoy about your community and the materials that you've created to help accelerate the journey, or even facilitate the journey, right? Not even necessarily accelerate it, could be either, but it's in a world where there's a lot of woo-woo, which I enjoy the hell out of it, right? I enjoy that content. And in the world of just corporate, follow these rules, lines, and whatever, you've created what I would say a happy medium.
Yeah.
Right. Which allows for anybody in off the streets to come into a space where nobody's gonna shove CBD oils in your face. And you're not going to get like a hit of patchouli as soon as you step in, and you can have real honest conversations. And there's some other groups that I'm into, and I'm not saying they're not right or true or anything, but they're not for me, where like
Yeah.
they're talking about like, oh, I was possessed by a demon, and then they go off on these like, there's none of that, which makes me feel more comfortable because I feel
Yes.
like I'm surrounded by normal people,
Yeah.
doing normal life who
Yeah.
are on their journey, right? And that's
Yeah.
acceptable too. So
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling that out. And I think I'm an everyday guy, somebody who can sit down and look eye to eye with the CEO and talk to him about how to run his business, and also someone who can guide you on a shamanic journey. It's about grounding it. To me, it's all about, can I use it to live a better life? Can I use it to bring more light into the world?
Yeah.
Can I use this predictably to evolve my consciousness? And that's what I care about, and that's, I think, what you were pointing out and what you were describing.
No, 100%. Exactly. So, Mark, one more time, thanks for being on today. We can go over to, I got to scroll all the way up to the top. We go go.pathwaytoradiance.com, Soulside, if this is a program that appeals to you. Mark, and you'd mentioned an email program too. What if they just want to join your email list? How would they do that?
Yeah. So to join my email list, you want to go to drainthepain.com.
Okay.
Drain, just like the drain in the sink, drainthepain.com. Mm-hmm. And you'll see some information there. You just sign up and you'll get a bunch of really great stuff right away, including the Drain the Pain technique.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna keep piling on the love for Mark and the tools that he's given here. Drain the Pain technique is really awesome, super beneficial. That was we did that in one of our sessions together. You walked me through it, and just the amazing, they're just amazing techniques, and you're going, and you can't, it's some of the stuff you can't describe. It's the stuff you've kind of got to experience for yourself and go through it. But for a few of you listened and you've made it all the way to the end here today, head on over to Drain the Pain and check it out, and reach out to Mark for some of these other awesome communities. Thanks again, Mark.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. It's been just an absolute pleasure.